Video.
Let's enjoy a good program. Our photojournalist friends, we will have ample opportunities. I'm part of that fraternity. I will make sure that we get enough time to take pictures. So, shall we start?
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Simon & Schuster India, I would like to welcome you all here. When we met Boria, as always, he was a powerhouse of energy. And he had so many stories, real life stories to share. As it said, sometimes reality is too complex. And stories give it a form. And these were not just ordinary stories, but fascinating exploration of the sport, which is an alternate religion in this country. We are happy that 11 Gods and a billion Indians has turned out to be one of the highest selling sports books on the pre-order. We believe that it is a must. We believe that it is a must read for every sports fan, and with this book we want and will create a new milestone in the industry. So let's welcome the man behind the book, Boria Majumdar.
I call the book 11 Gods and a Billion Indians. 4 people part of my panel today. Each of the 4 have very personal memories and stories with me. I have been part of Sachin's autobiography, having co-written it, so I'll start with Sachin. Which story of Sachin do I sort of start with to set it up? There are 222 to say and 222 seconds that I have. The one that I want to say is perhaps not related to cricket. In Chennai, and this is my favorite Sachin story, in Chennai, India plays a test match. There is this young boy with disability, and people are asked, Sachin is asked if Sachin will go and say hi to that little boy. Little does Sachin know that that boy has never, ever stood up from his chair and walked in his life. So he goes, and in that moment of emotionalism perhaps says, he will give him a bat if he does play cricket. And what happened next, in the next 30 seconds, is actually surreal. That little boy, perhaps 11, 80%, 75 to 80% disability, for the only time in his life, ladies and gentlemen, stands up and plays 3 balls of tennis ball cricket with the leader. 1,000 international runs, 100 international hundreds, everything pales, because this is what sport is all about. This is what we celebrate. This is what I call our 11 gods, who we, the billion Indians, put on a pedestal. Michael Clarke, dear friend, and when I asked Michael, will you do it? And this is my panel, Sachin, Ravi and Rohit, and Michael tells me, you know what, I've still got Sachin's gloves signed to me in my Sydney home. And I'm like, and today he was saying that as a 17-year-old in Australia, wherever I was, I would come and watch Sachin bat. Now, the idea, and what I will ask Michael Clarke today as part of the discussion, he's led the world's best cricket team at that point, was the world's best batsman according to ICC rankings. So there's a lot in terms of the Australia-India cricketing rivalry. And Michael, I know and I understand you've been back from your commentary stint at around 2:30 a.m. last night, and I appreciate you've got another one in about 3 hours from now. So while you don't sleep as part of the program is my job, thank you very much for being part of it. Ravi Shastri. Now where do I start with Ravi Shastri? I can tell you innumerable stories which are part of my book about Ravi Shastri. But let me just tell you about an interview that Ravi and I had done in December, just before Christmas. And we had a cake in front of me and I said, Ravi, will you cut the cake? And he said, yeah, he cut it for me and he gave it to me. And I said, Ravi, South Africa, we've never won. The foreign trips overseas is the monkey that's still going to haunt you for a while. And my question hadn't finished and Ravi was already on the front foot like Ravi is. And he said, there's no we in this team. There's no I in this team. There's always we. I treat this as an opportunity. Come South Africa. And what we've seen in South Africa tells me, come England, come Australia. Coach of the Indian cricket team, Ravi Shastri. Finally, and I left it deliberately for the last. Day before yesterday, I was on WhatsApp with Rohit Sharma and I said, Rohit, reminder, 3 p.m. is the function. And he says, we are back from Jaipur 5:30 p.m. in the afternoon. And I'm like, what? I'm pretty fast in my WhatsApp messages. 102 followed in the next 30 seconds. So Rohit's phone must have been clocked. And all he said was, calm down. Whatever happens, I will be there. And Rohit was there. I didn't have to call him. 2:10, he said, I'm on my way from Bandra. What's at the essence of this is a relationship. A relationship between a God and a billion Indian that collapses all of the barriers that we talk about, and that's sport. What for me is sport? Some of us, most of us, except these four, we are not winners in that sense. But, ladies and gentlemen, when we play sport, when we are in academia or when we are in scholarship, we fail an exam, we mourn in private. Oftentimes you've heard people commit suicide if they've not done an exam well. That is very personal humiliation, very personal insult that we find difficult to deal with. In sport, each of these four have lost more than they won. That's the nature of sport. But in sport, you lose in public. You lose, you go back with your support system, friends, family, husband, wife, daughter, sister, coach, support staff, come back the next day, recuperate and face life. By losing again, eventually you win. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, 11 gods and a billion Indians, welcome on stage Sachin Tendulkar, Rohit Sharma, Clarke and Rohit Sharma. We'll also karate. So why don't we start with you, birthday boy? That's actually an extra microphone. We'll start with the birthday boy. Sachin, I talk about the Sharjah knock. So why don't you have the privilege of kicking this discussion off? What happened in Sharjah in 1998, part of your birthday, before I get Rohit, Ravi and Michael into the discussion? Talk about that particular birthday which I celebrate in the book.
First of all, congratulations. I think this is a great book and we all are going to enjoy it. I've had chance to interact with you and got to know so many stories about Indian cricket and world cricket. There are plenty more in it, I believe. So I'm going to go through it. Talking about Sharjah trip, 1998, indeed was a special one, a big one, because something which happened with me for the first time on the cricket field was when I was batting there, and suddenly I see this desert storm approaching us. It was like watching a Hollywood movie. And the first thought came to my mind was, Ki Gilchrist kidhar hai? Because I thought I was going to get blown away with that. So I was all prepared to grab him. But all that happened, and then we went to the dressing room. The target was reshuffled, and the fresh target was given to us. But something that was going on in my mind was we need to win against Australia, because if we qualify for the finals, having beaten them in the earlier game, we would get them to think. And by the time we reached back the hotel, we were staying in Dubai. So that drive post-match from Sharjah to Dubai, and you unwind and you go to sleep, it was almost 2:30 a.m. The next morning, I think if I'm not mistaken, I was meeting Ravi, Mark Mascarenas, my former manager, for lunch. I felt I hadn't recovered because those days, due to lack of knowledge and lack of awareness, post-match recovery sessions and all that, were not given as much importance, to be honest. This has happened in the last, 10, 15 years, but I woke up in the morning feeling really stiff, and I went and I had lunch with them. And immediately after that, later on in the evening, there was another official dinner. So there was no time for recovery as such. By the time I realized, the next day we were going to the ground. And it happened to be my birthday, so all the celebrations on 23rd of April itself happened. Number of cakes were cut. And here I go, in the middle. Luckily we got to field, which I think was an advantage, but also at the same time, the heat in Sharjah is so much that you want to come back to the dressing room and you put your feet in the ice bucket. Then I went out to bat in the evening. I felt mentally I was not quite there. I was trying to focus, and I knew that it was all about spending as much time as possible there, and then the rhythm was going to come back to me. And it took about 5-6 overs. Until then, I was not at all happy with the way I was moving, and eventually confidence is all about which part of the bat you're hitting the ball, and I wasn't finding the middle of the bat. So I waited for my turn, and eventually I played those couple of big shots of Kasparovich, which went for sixes, 2 sixes in a row. And from there on, things started rolling the way I wanted, and we ended up winning that tournament. But what an incredible experience that was, because, needless to say that was one period where Australians traveled all across the world. Shut your ears, Australians traveled all across the globe and thrashed everyone. They were by far the best side in the world. And then to go out and chase, I think 270 or something like that, was a big ask. And we were able to do that. Incredible feeling. So when I get back also, the kind of reception that I received, it's still there, because I remember yesterday itself, I was talking to one of my friends, and we were discussing this single wicket tournament at Shivaji Park, which I was there as a chief guest the next day. So that buzz was such that, Shivaji Park was completely, crowded with cricket fans, and then that left an impression with me. So all due to Sharjah.
So it was a birthday like no other. Somebody told me in the morning today that today is actually World Book Day, so I could not have had a better day to launch the book. So today is actually World Book Day. Let's make 24th April World Cricket Day, because it's Sachin's birthday. Now, stuff like that keeps happening in India. Michael, to set a record straight before I go to Ravi and Rohit, there has been a lot of talk on social media about a story that I have written in the book, quoting you. And you say, and I've quoted you saying, Sourav Ganguly at one point in time, at a toss with Ricky Ponting, said head-tail. He said head-tail, and he picked it up. Anirudh Chaudhary, the BCCI treasurer, has been on Twitter saying, how is this possible? It's a good story, but how is it possible? I said, I'm attributing it to Michael Clarke. All to you now.
Yeah, look, there's probably two sides to this story. I think, firstly, I remember having the conversation with Ricky. There was a few of us in the change room. I can't remember if Steve Waugh was the captain or Ricky Ponting was the captain at the time, but what the main point of the story is this. What it taught me from a very young age is that Sourav Ganguly made it very clear to, as Sachin says, during that period Australia were very dominant in international cricket. Sourav Ganguly made it very clear to Australia and every other team around the world that he wasn't going to be bullied. He wasn't going to accept that anybody was going to tell him what to do. And, I say now, I look at a lot of the young players, I look at Rohit, I look at Virat, I look at a lot of these young guys currently playing for India, and I think they've got that same attitude. And I've said it openly, I think Sourav deserves a lot of credit for that. The way he was going to take a stance and was going to make sure that that Indian team was going to play their natural game no matter who they were going to play against. Yes, it helped. They had unbelievable talent. The world's greatest batsman, Sachin Tendulkar, Dravid, Laxman, Harbhajan, great attack as well. But I think what he also did, he instilled in these players to play fearless cricket. And we all do it differently. You know, some people are more outspoken than others, and I remember playing against Sachin and Laxman and Dravid, those three particularly. They would never say a word, but you could see that hunger and that fire inside them by the way they batted or the energy they created on the field. Sourav had a different style, but he was very clear that this is my turf, this is how we're going to play, and even though Australia might be the best team in the world, we're not going to back away from you. So, yeah, look, it was. I remember Ricky telling us that, like I say, I can't remember if Steve or Ricky was captain at the time. They tossed the coin. Sourav said quickly, head tail, picked up the coin, said pull back, thank you very much. Before Ricky or Steve Waugh could even think what had just happened, India's batting, they probably made 500 and Australia losing the game. So that's data for you.
So I stand vindicated about what I have written in the book. On a more serious note, Ravi, several times you and I have spoken, and terrific South African tour. 5-1, 2-1, one of the stars sitting with you. I mean, how does that feel as head coach of this team to be able to do that in South Africa? We've seen what happened to Australia, they crumbled, and leading this team now to England and Australia. How are you feeling about, the next 12 months will perhaps redefine the contours of Indian cricket's legacy? One of the people leading it.
Well before we went to South Africa, I told you very clearly, the next 15 months is going to define this Indian cricket team. No two ways about it. And what the boys did in South Africa, it makes a coach like me proud. Because there was 21 days of test match cricket. Okay? 21 days of cricket, I beg your pardon, not tests, including the tests. And each one of those 21 days, India competed. You might have lost a close test series, but each one of those days in the test series, the pendulum swung from one side to the other. A little bit of luck, that series could well have been ours. But like I said, 21 out of 21, the boys competed. They were relentless. There was a series, a one-day series you won after 25 years. And everyone around the world, you're going to ask an Australian, a West Indian, an Englishman, they know how good South Africa are in their backyard. And so from a coach's point of view, you have to just stand up and say, well done guys, you were just simply magnificent, you raised the bar, and that's the fun in sport. When you play above your potential, and you realize it as a player, then you realize that the word impossible is just another word. You can go thinking in that fashion. It doesn't matter where you go. You set the bar, try and be consistent, whatever opposition you play against.
Rohit, what 5-1 in South Africa is quite astounding. I mean, if any Indian cricket fan would have been told 5-1 in Jan, 2-1 after the test series, we would have said, hey wait. But now that has happened, and when I look ahead, I mean, you in the Champions Trophy, and I'm coming specifically to this question because there's a lot of the World Cup in the book. Sachin's highest point is mentioned that umpteenth number of times. World Cup, last World Cup winning captain, we played the semi-finals against them. You in ICC tournaments, you've always delivered. Punched, I mean, whether we take that Bangladesh 100, whether we take the Champions Trophy of 2013, whatever we take. Now, are you in that zone, or is this team in that zone with Ravi, with the rest of the boys, that when we go into England, can the billion Indians say that, no one can say favorites in sport, but can we say this team is good enough on their day to go ahead and win the World Cup and beat anybody?
I think so. If from how I look at it is, a cricket team needs a freedom to go and express themselves on the ground, and with a coach like him, we get that freedom. Any player you ask, we were never felt that we were pressurized about going and winning outside India. For me, it is about winning, whether you win at home or you win outside. I know there is a lot of importance of going and winning away from home, obviously for different reasons. But for me, it is about going and representing my country and winning everywhere, whether it's at home or away. As long as you're wearing that, crest on your chest, you have to go and deliver, whether it's, again, like I said, India or outside India. And what we did in South Africa was an example of how this team is going to play for the next few years, till the World Cup at least, and maybe even more. We want to go and express ourselves on the field. We want to enjoy our cricket more than anything else. It is the most important thing that a cricket team can do on the field. We have learned from our mistakes when we have toured abroad before, what mistakes we made, and we tried and rectified it this time when we went to South Africa. And hence, you saw the improved performance from all the players. We read the conditions well, and that's all cricket is about. You have to read the situation, you have to read the opposition, and I thought we did our homework pretty well against the opposition, and that's probably the reason we got the result we wanted. Like Ravi bhai said, the test series could have gone either way. The 3 test matches that we played, I think we dominated nearly about 14 days. 1 day of bad test cricket and we lost the test series. But that can happen. We are a young team still, a lot of new guys in the squad. But to come out and perform like that against a quality side gives us a lot of confidence going to England now and then to Australia.
Ravi, World Cup 1983, World Cup 2019, will the sort of circle come full thing for Ravi Shastri, coach, player?
Hopefully. I'm not one to take a back seat, because the way the team had played, they believe that they can compete against any side in the world. And like Rohit said, in any conditions. For us, every condition is home. Really you don't play the opposition, you play the pitch. That pitch is the same for both sides. So if one team can adapt on that surface, you jolly well try and think what you have to do to adapt in those same conditions. So if you need to get a combination of players that can play well on that pitch, so be it. It has to be horses for courses many times. You can't please everyone when it comes to selection, because you're playing that pitch more than the opposition. So if you can do that and conquer the pitch, the rest will follow.
Michael, you're perhaps the only person who's objective. All of us are biased, all Indians and passionate Indians at that. Does this team actually, objectively speaking, now, post what you've seen with Australia and South Africa, is this team going to go into the 2019 World Cup as title favourites?
They're a brilliant team, there's no doubt about it, across all 3 formats, but particularly in the one-day format. But I think more than that, it's just sitting here today and listening to their attitude, they're halfway there. I believe this sport particularly is based around attitude. If you can have that confidence in your own ability and your team's ability, you're halfway there. Where you struggle in cricket is the self-doubt. Having high expectations is one thing, but then having the confidence to be able to go and back yourself and play, like Raul mentioned, play with freedom. That's why we play this game, and that's how you win big tournaments and big moments in a game, because you're confident in your own ability. So, yeah, look, every team goes to England, there'll be a certain amount of time to adjust to conditions. But India's no different to Australia, to South Africa, to any other team that tours. It's going to take a little bit of time. In the shortest format, or in the one-day format, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get pretty good wickets. There might be a little bit of spin in England, but I think the Test series, England versus India, will be different pitches compared to what they get in the World Cup. And again, I still believe India can adjust to those surfaces. I think they're as good a team as anyone across all 3 formats in the world at the moment. And if they've got that attitude, they're going to be tough to beat.
It's getting a tad serious, so let me lighten this up. Sachin is very fond of his cars. You go to his house and try and do something with his cars, you'll get bullied out of that house, okay? One time in his life, he did not say a word to what happened to his cars. Sachin, happy dance. Over to you. What happened? World Cup 2011. I don't want to say the story. Why don't you say it?
I thought you were going to say it. But no, after we won the World Cup, Anjali, as usual, being superstitious, didn't want to be at the ground. And then I call her and I say, what are you doing at home? You've got to be here in the dressing room. We're all celebrating and all that. So somehow she makes it to the stadium. And while she was getting there to the stadium, just outside the main gate, people were all celebrating, dancing, jumping on top of the cars. So they spotted Anjali inside the car. I said, "Is gaadi pe nahi, is gaadi ko nahi kar sakte kuch." So somehow, she gets inside the stadium. And then, we were all celebrating in the dressing room. And when it was time to go back to the hotel, I look at the car and I say, इसमें dent कैसे आ गया roof पे? Suddenly, the driver said कि नहीं वो आपको मैडम को छोड़ने के बाद सब everyone started jumping and dancing on top of the car. So I said that's not a bad idea. You get it? ये dents will always remind me of that wonderful moment of the World Cup. I said so I call them happy dents.
That's the story. But just to push you a little bit more, Sachin, I mean, you did something that post that World Cup. I mean, tell me about that England game. Tell me about that England game and what you did after you won the World Cup, going back to the hotel. Another Taj, another room. Anjali was there, thankfully. And what you did there. I mean, flowers, everything.
The England match was a special game for us in Bangalore, and I think we scored 338, and then it was a tie. So the message which started circulating everywhere was, Jojo tournament mein Dhoni as a captain, there has been a tie game. He has ended up winning that tournament. So if you go back and notice, the first IPL, the first Champions Trophy, the first T20 World Cup in South Africa, number of tournaments, there has been a tie. So this was also a tight game. So suddenly we started thinking, oh, that means we're going to win the World Cup? Okay, fantastic. So that's how it all started. And then, finals, we finished the game. We go back to the hotel. By then, God knows how many bottles of champagnes were opened and drank. We were all celebrating. The floor, nobody was allowed to shut the door. So all the doors were open, and virtually in each and every room they had their own music going on. And in our room, for a change, I had a flower stuck here, and then we were dancing and singing and all that, which I've never done in my life, by the way. I don't do it every weekend, but that was a special moment for us. So an incredible moment, something that I cannot imagine. After winning the World Cup, you feel, okay, how are we going to celebrate? And it just happened on its own. It had its own momentum, had its own rhythm. Then we go up, I think, on the top floor, where all the friends and the players got together, and we went on till I think 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Fabulous. Ravi, when you take over as head coach, and we know it was tumultuous, and I think personally the strength of this book is I have tried to be as objective as possible. Indian cricket is not only about celebration or about black and white. There are layers of grey, and I have tried to highlight the layers of grey. You've had your trials and tribulations to take over in circumstances which weren't the best, but then to be able to deliver in the next 6 months, whether it's Sri Lanka, whether it's South Africa, whether it's at home, must have pleased you no end. How difficult was it to take over in such circumstances and then to do what you've done?
Wasn't difficult at all. It was as easy as a Sunday morning, because I had been there with the team for 2 years. I went back in there with no baggage whatsoever, asked very few questions, and then carried on from where I left, and kept it as simple as that, because you didn't have to reinvent the wheel. It wasn't broken. So you just had to carry on in that same fashion, get some wins very quickly under the belt, get some momentum going, and the rest had to follow. But you had to go in with a very clear mind. I wasn't away from the game, man. I was doing television. I mean, did the IPL last year, did almost all the cricket that happened. So you were still very much in touch with it. You knew the boys, you knew their form, you knew who was hot, who needed a little push, mentally, physically, how to get this team back in order. You had all the cards in your back pocket. All you had to go out there, like I mentioned, keep things simple. If I went in there under pressure, the boys would have felt the pressure even more. But the bottom line was, there was absolutely no pressure on me. And I'm damn serious about it. I know it was pretty steamy in the media, but I went in, like I promised you, as easy as a Sunday morning. Just wanted to get things back on track again.
Rohit, this attitude that Ravi is talking about, something Michael alluded to, You know, when you led that team in Sri Lanka, it was practically an India side. A lot of our senior players weren't there. We ended up winning. I mean, as captain, can you talk about that mindset, the winning mindset? Whatever it is, we represent India. We are here to win.
I feel captain is as good as another player. All you got to do is just manage a few things on the field, but you got to act as if you are one of the players, and you got to make sure that your players are very well supported, and they need the backing that they have. And it is important, there were a lot of new faces in the squad, and I had no doubt in my mind that they can't be match winners. So the first thing we, as a management, had a chat with the boys was going out and doing what they've been doing for their IPL teams or state teams. They are match winners in their own way, wherever they have played, and it should never feel that way, that they have come here for the first time and there's no pressure for them to perform. When you're playing for your country, the performance is always expected, and all we tried and did was to have some fun in the middle, because it is important. A lot of these younger players, we haven't played together with them, and it was important to get to know these guys really well and give them that freedom to go and express themselves. It was important to do that, and rightly so. Guys like Washington Sundar, Dinesh played a blinder in the finals, and Rishabh Pant was there. So a lot of these guys who hadn't had a taste of international cricket, they came out and played as if they've been here for a while. So that was only because they have tasted success in wherever they have played, and we just wanted them to come here and do the same. That was the only talk we had.
Just adding to what Rohit said, what summed it, he was leading a very young side, plenty of new faces, plenty of guys getting an opportunity for the first time. But what summed it up was what Dinesh Karthik said after the final. Because what he said was great. He said, we've had such a great last 7-8 months. We had such a great last trip of South Africa. This is the last day of the season. We had to get past that finish line. And so he was thinking at no stage that the match was over. Until the last ball was bowled. So he was thinking in that fashion. And the rest is history. Now people remember that game more than what happened 6 months ago, because it was the last ball 6 to finish it off.
You said the last match of the season, the first match of the season will be in England, and what is different? And Diana's here, I've spoken to Vinod Rai, I've spoken to BCCI. Something that you have done, I mean you all have done, is you all are going to England early. Part of the A team, some are playing county cricket, Cheteshwar Ishant already there. Conscious to sort of try and undo what happened in South Africa? Maybe had you got a little bit more time, was that a conscious plan that you implemented now or you put in place?
Absolutely, because to be fair, to the BCCI as well, the COA as well, those plans were already in place. It's only when the new FTP kicks in 2019, that's when you can address those problems, and they have been addressed. But even here, for England, we tried to get into a position where we got in early, got some matches under your belt. Michael and me were having a chat just before, so that you played some one-day cricket. You played there for almost a month before the first test match starts. So you kick off with the one-day games around the 1st of July, and the first test starts on the 1st of August. So it gives the guys a lot more time to prepare.
Michael, Australia winter tour, is this India's best chance? Australia beating Australia more with what has happened now?
Oh, look, I think even if Australia had all their players fully fit, I think it would be an unbelievable series. I think there's no doubt losing Smith, Warner and Bancroft, that's going to hurt Australia. But I would hate to see, if India do have success in Australia, I'd hate to see the reason be because Australia lost Warner and Smith and Bancroft. I don't think that's fair to the Indian team. I think if Australia are at full strength, it would be an unbelievable series. So, I think India's a very strong team. I think they've had certain success individually, especially the certain players that are going to be on this next tour. So they know the conditions really well. They've had experience there. So I think India's going to be very tough to beat. I certainly think they're in for a good chance in England as well. I believe if India can beat England in England, they'll go to Australia with so much confidence. It's going to be really hard for the Aussies to beat them. Australia's under pressure at the moment. There's, obviously with what's happened, they're trying to work out what their team's going to be for all three formats. So, yeah, who knows what that's going to look like, but they need to find a way. They need to draw a line in the sand and start to rebuild, and quickly. Again, Australia versus India is a massive series. We've never lost to India in Australia, so this current team needs to work out how they're going to continue that success and how they're going to beat this very good Indian team.
I'll go for a few more minutes before I get on to the formal unveil of the book and call a few of my other guests on stage. Sachin, Ravi, I asked the question about pressure. Now I have to ask you this. Your retirement test match, 15 minutes from here, 20 minutes from here at the Wankhede, end of day one, you batting, suddenly we see your mother on screen, your wife on screen, your children on screen, 30, 40,000 people screaming Sachin, Sachin. I mean, what is pressure if that is not pressure? How did you deal with that? Because you still have a job to do for India, a job to do for yourself, an innings out there, but you're seeing all that flash in front of you and that scream of Sachin, Sachin. Tell me about that experience and how you dealt with it.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank BCCI here again because I requested them to have this match in Mumbai. The match was kept in Mumbai. Wasn't to be in Mumbai, I'm told. And the reason for having the match in Mumbai was because my mother hadn't seen me play ever. Right from the day I started in school cricket, she had never seen me play at all. And I said, okay, I've been leaving home for last 30 plus years, at least you should come once and see why I left home. So, everything was done for my mother according to, her requirements, a ramp and all those kind of things were there. And she came and sat in the president's box. My friends were there around her, and the moment West Indies chose to bat, they all decided, okay, West Indies is going to bat today, so let's go home. So one of my friends, he thought differently. He said, the way they are batting, you never know, India might end up batting this evening. And we actually did. I went and I batted for, I think, 20-25 minutes towards the end of the day's play. And before the last over was bowled, I think Darren Sahi was on his run-up, and suddenly on the mega screen I see my mother. There was a close-up on her, and that priceless moment was when she realized that she's on the mega screen, and that was happening to her for the first time in life, and her reaction. And while I was trying to keep myself in control to play the last over and fighting emotions and all those kind of things, one by one, as if the director had decided, okay, after mother we go to Anjali, after that we go to his brothers, then we go to his coach and children and all that. I mean, that made things doubly difficult for me, and after every ball then I start thinking, now who's next? And then after that, I'm constantly telling myself, leave all this behind and just focus on this ball. And ball by ball, all these things were happening. But that was an unbelievable experience for me, because something like that I never thought. You always tend to visualize your last game, because that was $1 million question on my mind. That how would my last game be? Would we end up on the winning side, and how would the crowd react and all that? But in all that, I had never thought that I'll have to fight this battle also, which was possibly tougher than any, because I felt I got so emotional that my eyes were teary, and it would have been a disaster if I had not been able to see the ball properly, and I lose my wicket in the last over because of that. Unbelievable story. Do you ever think of such things? I mean, we do. It'll give me another chapter 11, God's second edition.
I definitely don't. But I'm enjoying my cricket right now. The past few years, whatever has happened, I'm enjoying myself. Of course, I also understand the challenges that lies ahead of me in the future. But for me, it's all about going and having fun. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I never thought I'll be sitting here and talking about this wonderful game. So I'm very, very happy with wherever I am right now. But of course, I do understand the challenges that is ahead of me. And yes, I just want to enjoy my cricket, that's all. But so far, with whatever is happening with MI, it's just not going the way we wanted to. But I know things will turn around pretty soon,
Sure.
like we have done it in the past. So hopefully we can turn it around this time as well.
That's why he asked you that question. He wants you to open tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah. I think there's a hint there. I think there's a hint there from the coach.
He's got a
Wow. Ravi, I don't want to put you in that spot, but as coach, leading this bunch of boys,
COA is sitting there, conflict of interest, even if I open my track on that subject.
no, this is not an interview. But leading this bunch of boys, Virat, Rohit, and the new crop, I've asked this question of Michael in the past. Is this the best bowling unit in terms of fast bowling unit that you have seen, which is giving you the confidence of doing what he said, win everywhere in all conditions?
I would say so, without a shadow of doubt. And more importantly, the bench strength. You know, you've got another 2-3 in the wings. The more I see the IPL, you know, you can see already there are 2-3 other guys there who are knocking on the doors, which augurs well for Indian cricket. Because when there's competition, it makes even your main bowlers work that bit harder. Stay fit, stay on the path, because if you don't, there'll be somebody else there.
Michael, just to carry on from that, I mean, I did not want to ask Ravi that question because he can't answer this, but you can. I mean, these guys have taken some tough calls. Take the two spinners, Ashwin and Jadeja did brilliantly, and there was a lot of talk in the media going in with these two young guys, and they did that, and they were successful. So they've actually taken the bull by the horn and taken tough calls and got success.
And that's leadership. Again, Ravi mentioned it. Sometimes, unfortunately, in a leadership position, you make a tough decision based on what you feel is in the best interest of the team. Some people that enhances. The person you bring in, they take confidence in that because you've selected them. But you have to drop someone. So it's hard. Sometimes it's hard because you're not necessarily dropping someone because they're no good. You're dropping somebody based on conditions, based on opposition, based on gut instinct. You know, all you care about is trying to get the best 11 to win that game of cricket. And I think these guys and the leadership deserve a lot of credit for making those tough decisions. But in the same breath, I think Ashwin, Jadeja, those sort of players deserve a lot of credit as well for copying it on the chin. You know, you watch Ashwin now, he's bowling, always bowled brilliant out the front of the hand, he's bowling leg spin to right-handed batsmen now. He's gone away with the right attitude and said, okay, how can I improve my game to now go back to the leaders in the team and the selectors and push to get back into the team. Whether he does or not is actually irrelevant, but the fact you're trying to get better every single day, that's helping in Indian cricket. Again, look at the quicks that you see around the IPL, the fast bowlers. The strength there is so strong, and I believe travelling around the world, yes, you do unbelievable hard work in India as a fast bowler, you've got to work your backside off to get your wickets, but come England, Australia in those conditions, that's why India is such a threat to being the best team in the world, but not for 1 year, for the next 5-10 years, because their depth is so strong, their bench strength is so strong. And again, I listen to Rohit speak now, and I just feel, and I mean this politely, Rohit, but over the last 5 years, he's just grown so much as a player, and I think the IPL deserves a lot of credit for that. He's captained the IPL, won the most IPL titles. That leadership experience has made him such a better player, and now you can hear it in his voice. He's so confident in his own game. Whether it's Mumbai when they play, he goes and plays for India in a Test match. He's got confidence in his own ability. Like I say, you look at the captains of the IPL franchises. There's only one overseas captain, Kane Williamson. Every other team has got an Indian captain. That's unbelievable. That is so good for Indian cricket. That's leadership all the way throughout the tournament. So whatever players get picked for India, leaders are going to be in that squad. That's what you want with your international teams.
Final question of this conversation before I go into the unveil, Sachin. This is a celebration of Indian cricket, and it is a celebration of all of you on stage. It is a celebration of every player who wears that tricolour, the blue colour, which is why we call them 11 gods. Virendra Sehwag thinks the title is wrong because there's one god. That's fine. Michael said the same one to me, that the title is wrong, there's one God, but that's a different debate. The reason I say this is, what strikes me, and the essence of this, is the word respect. I hear this from you all the time, something I've learned. When Rohit Sharma speaks to me about Sachin Tendulkar, I clearly understand the respect that comes through. When you speak to me about a Ravi Shastri, 2012, not in the best of form, Ravi Shastri takes you out in Nagpur, talks to you. When you speak about your father, when I hear Virat Kohli speak to me about you, well, 10 days back in Kolkata, he was launching this book, and he said to me that he's modeled himself on you, the role model that you were, the role model that you have been to generations of cricketers. And he said that story to me, which we've written in Playing It My Way, that on your retirement day, this is a great story, on Sachin's retirement day, he was alone sitting in that dressing room. Virat comes, and he wears these dhagas that we Indians wear, these threads in our hand, and he comes and gives them to Sachin. And those were apparently given to him by his father, his late father. And he touches Sachin's feet and says, you deserve. At the core of this story, and the rest you hug him and you bless him and all that, the word is respect, and I've seen you say the same about Sunil Gavaskar. Is that what defines Indian cricket? Question number one. And that's the legacy that you guys have passed on. And question number two is more tongue-in-cheek. I have to ask you this, being a newscaster myself. You and Sunil Gavaskar, tremendous relationship. You break the record of 3400s, 35 bottles of champagne come your way. You see Virat Kohli breaking that record of 4900s. Will 50 bottles of champagne go his way from you? Ravi Shastri is ready to drink the first bottle.
I will go and share a bottle with him.
But 50 bottles? Yes, no. You will share a bottle, then Ravi will not allow you because he'll have the first drink. Will you send him 50 bottles of champagne if he breaks the record of 4900?
100%. I will not send. I will go there and share it with him.
So the media has a deadline. How do you mind? That's the next bit. More importantly, the respect. Is that what defines Indian cricket?
I think it's a lot to do with your upbringing. And for me, right from my childhood, the way my parents brought
Is done. We take the photo. Please, sir, come in front. I'll do that. You've got to come. I've said 4 o'clock, I'll close it. I'll take it to 4 or 5 with their permission. So take your pictures.
Request for Boria, the next book, second edition, is going to be 11 Goddesses.
Birthday number 45, so clearly 45 has a resonance. Can we have the cake on stage from here? Anjali, I've got to ask you to come for 1 second, please. You what? 1 second. The icing you will take home, but bring the cake on stage. The cake, Vishal, the lady who's done the cake and has brought it from Calcutta to Mumbai this morning on a flight, should be join us on stage. Sachin, has made it in Calcutta, got it here. Where is the knife? There she is. So finally we have it. There she is. Come on, go. Birthday number 45. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Sachin. Happy birthday to you. Fabulous. Could not have been a better end to this function. Thank you very, very much, everybody, all of you. Each of you mean a lot because you guys are as much part of this story. The billion Indians, we make this sport. There might be 11 gods, but we make this sport in India what it is. We celebrate, we win, we lose, we cry, we are in despair because these people on the pedestal give us the joy. Fantastic.
Hi guys, this is Rakul and you're watching Viral Bollywood. Please subscribe.